Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear, though war should rise against me. In this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When thou saidst, seek thee my face, my heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path, because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Psalm 27 offers timeless wisdom and encouragement for anyone dealing with fear, uncertainty, or hardship. Written by King David. This psalm reflects a deeply personal and relatable experience, the struggle to remain confident in the face of life's challenges, while relying on God's protection and guidance. It moves between trust in God, longing for his presence, and honest expressions of vulnerability, showing us that faith is not the absence of fear, but the decision to trust God despite it. David starts Psalm 27 with a bold declaration of confidence in God. He calls God his light, salvation, and stronghold. Each of these words carries powerful meaning that can resonate with us today. Light symbolizes guidance, clarity, and hope, especially in dark times. Salvation refers to being saved from danger, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. A stronghold is a fortress, a place of security that can't easily be shaken. For us, this verse can be a reminder that God is our source of safety and security in the face of real fears, whether it's anxiety about the future, financial stress, relationship troubles, or any number of challenges. We can draw strength from the fact that God is our protector. David's rhetorical question, "Whom shall I fear?" is his way of saying that with God by his side, fear loses its power. This doesn't mean that we won't face scary or uncertain times, but it does mean that fear doesn't have to control us because we know God is with us. David reflects on his past experiences, where God helped him overcome enemies and adversity. He uses vivid imagery: enemies trying to devour him, but declares that it is his enemies who stumble and fall. David's enemies were often literal soldiers and opponents on the battlefield. But in our lives, enemies can take many forms: personal struggles, toxic people, unhealthy habits, or even self-doubt. David's confidence comes not from his own strength, but from his trust that God has protected him before and will do so again. This is a reminder that we too can look back on times in our lives when we've faced difficult situations and come through them, often stronger or wiser. These verses encourage us to remember how God has been faithful in the past, which can give us the courage to trust Him with our present and future challenges. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek Him in His temple. In these verses, David's deepest desire is not just physical protection, but to be close to God. He expresses a longing to dwell in the house of the Lord, which represents a desire for ongoing communion with God. To gaze on the beauty of the Lord means to experience God's goodness and presence in a personal and profound way. For us, this can reflect a spiritual desire for peace, comfort, and a deep connection with God. In a busy world full of distractions, it's easy to get caught up in the chaos of life. But David reminds us that the most important thing is to seek God's presence. This might mean setting aside time for prayer, meditation, or worship, where we can focus on connecting with God and finding rest in Him. David trusts that God will protect him in times of trouble, hiding him in a sacred tent and setting him high upon a rock. These images reflect safety and security in the midst of chaos. David sees God as a refuge, a place where he can go to be safe from harm. This idea of God as our shelter is comforting for us today. We all experience days of trouble, whether they come in the form of health issues, emotional struggles, or difficult circumstances. This part of the psalm reminds us that we can find refuge in God's presence. When life feels overwhelming, we can turn to God for peace and stability. David's image of being set high upon a rock suggests that God lifts us above the challenges that could overwhelm us, giving us a new perspective and a sense of security that only comes from Him. After expressing his confidence in God, David shifts to a more vulnerable, prayerful tone. He calls out to God, asking for mercy and help. Even though David has just declared his trust in God's protection, he still feels the need to cry out for help, showing that it's okay to be both confident and in need of reassurance at the same time. We can relate to this when we feel overwhelmed by life's challenges, even when we know God is with us. There are times when we feel alone, afraid, or uncertain. David's prayer shows us that it's okay to bring those feelings to God. In fact, God invites us to be honest with Him about our fears and needs. He's always there, ready to listen. David acknowledges that even the people closest to us might let us down, but God never will. This verse is especially relatable for anyone who's experienced feelings of abandonment or loneliness. Sometimes, people, whether family, friends, or others we trust, may disappoint us. In those moments, David reminds us that God's love and care are constant. No matter who may walk away or fail to understand us, God is always there, ready to receive us with open arms. David asks God to guide him, particularly in the face of enemies and opposition. This request for guidance is one that we can all relate to, especially when we're faced with difficult decisions or challenges. Whether it's figuring out how to deal with a tough situation at work, navigating personal relationships, or making big life choices, we all need direction. David's prayer is a model for us to ask God to lead us on the right path and help us make wise decisions. Do not turn me over to the desire of my foes, for false witnesses rise up against me, spouting malicious accusations. David faces real threats from his enemies, including false accusations and opposition. While most of us may not face literal enemies, we all encounter challenges that feel like opposition, whether it's criticism, misunderstandings, or difficult circumstances. This verse encourages us to trust that God sees what's happening in our lives and will protect us from unjust situations. It's a reminder that even when things seem unfair, or when people try to bring us down, God is our ultimate defender. I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Despite all the fears, opposition, and challenges, David holds on to hope. He believes that he will experience God's goodness, not just in the afterlife, but here and now, in the land of the living. This is an important reminder for us today, especially when we're going through tough times. It's easy to get discouraged and wonder when things will get better. David's words remind us to stay hopeful, trusting that God's goodness will break through in our lives, even in the here and now. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. The psalm ends with an encouragement to wait on God. Waiting can be hard. Whether we're waiting for answers to prayer, for circumstances to change, or for guidance on what to do next. But David reminds us that waiting on God isn't passive. It's about being strong and patient, trusting that God's timing is perfect, even when things aren't happening as quickly as we'd like. We can take heart knowing that God is at work behind the scenes. Psalm 27 offers a timeless message of hope, courage, and trust in God. In today's world, where uncertainty, fear, and hardship are common experiences, this psalm speaks directly to our hearts. David's honesty in expressing both his confidence in God and his moments of vulnerability make this psalm relatable to anyone walking through difficult seasons in life. Whether we're dealing with fear, seeking guidance, or waiting for God's help, Psalm 27 encourages us to trust in God's presence and protection. It reminds us that we don't have to face life's challenges alone. God is our light, our salvation, and our stronghold, and no matter what comes our way, we can find peace, hope, and courage in Him.